pretty hype. I will say, though, I believe we are going to be moving on now to the next match. We are going to be moving on to round number 5, which is the last round of the day. So there'll be this match and then maybe a couple more. We'll see to see what's left until the round is over. But I believe, yeah, there we go. We have Alan numbers, Alan870806, but now Alan numbers, or just Alan, I'm going to call him. All the names, and then ETC, another Grandmaster, and Alan is one of the well-known players for pro players to know, and maybe less well-known players for the average Hearthstone viewer to know. Yeah,
he's just one of those guys that had such strong, consistent ladder results that everyone who was also up there right at the top of ladder, grinding HCT points last year, knew him very, very well. Was also, I believe, in contention for America's Grandmasters, because I think he has dual nationality. So had a very good chance of getting it there. Unfortunately, wasn't quite able to get into the Grandmaster system. But of course, you're always fighting for a chance to get through there. And thankfully for the players trying to get through into the America's Grandmaster system, they don't have that difficult of a time doing so. Relative to the European players in particular, they potentially don't have to come winning or second or even third, fourth, and they could still get through to the Grandmaster system.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy overall. I'm just trying to get the information on the deck list because there's someone lied to me about which thing I needed to click here. But anyway, we'll find that in a minute. I did see another Druid band though, which again just reaffirms my thoughts that, like, yes, Druid was a good pick for this tournament. I know Sol had it, and when we've been discussing lineups, yesterday, day before, and so on, leading up to this. But I think for me, the Druid's weaknesses or strengths are less about it as an individual deck, are more about where it fits in the lineup and the tournament meta. And I feel like at least some of the matches I've cast with Druid involved, which has always been banned, it's very much like Druid does the things other decks can't do. There isn't really a combo deck from hand in the form of Malik Druid, and there's also not really a deck that has such late game power as well as such staying power against certain aggro decks as well. So I think although we've not seen it, that's probably a good thing for the players who brought it, because it means it forces a ban, and quite often that means Priest and Shaman is left up, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I absolutely think I didn't give Druid enough credit going into this tournament, because I was absolutely in Camp Sottle, where I was saying it feels very, very weak at the moment, where everyone's playing Priest, which is a horrible matchup, and the Shaman, which I personally think is not a great matchup for the Druid. I know we differ on that slightly. But if your opponent doesn't prepare for it and they're caught off guard by it, then that can be a huge factor in terms of bringing it. And also, if you can build your lineup, speaking of Druid,
I'm excited for this series because I like me some Mali Druid, and all I see are Mali Druid cards right there. Triple Mali Druid lineup. Who would have thought?
For both players. That's what I'm here to see.
I'm ready to go.
But I think, again, if you specifically are banning a deck that is very good against Druid, like the Priest, if that's your strategy going into it, sure, I'm on board with it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the lineups go, I think. What have you made of so far today? Because I've not cast with you yet, and this is the last round that is being shown today. But what have you made of how the tournament's actually shaken out so far?
I think it's been a good mix of players that I respect very, very highly and know very well, who have been doing very well, and also a fair few players who are up-and-comers doing well, which I think is exactly what you want to see. We saw a bit of a divide where I think in Vegas there was not many unknowns in the top 8, whereas I think in Seoul it was a little bit dominated by players I didn't know all too much about. So I think it's a good...
this one makes the best of 3.
Exactly, yeah, a good balance we've got going on here. And I've also been surprised by a couple of decks. The abundance of Rogue, I thought would be brought a fair amount. It is way up there, more than Druid, which honestly I find staggering that it would get there.
Yeah, that's crazy. And also, I know it's been talked about a lot, but I guess if people are tuned in, the Paladin, I just didn't see coming at all. And I think that's one of the few times us as a casting team have a unified agreement. They're like, yeah, we all kind of got duped by that one, didn't we? Because I don't think any of us expected that. There's always the odd deck that pops up in a Swiss this big, right? Someone brings something. But everyone, or it feels like everyone's brought this Paladin, and it just was not on my radar to fit in the lineup. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar feeling that we had to the Highlander Hunter in Masters Tour Seoul, where Staz brought this weird, janky-looking aggro deck that had Dino Tamer Brown in there, and we were like, what on earth is this deck? This can't be good. It slipped under all of our radars. Apart from, of course, Brian Kibler, who'd played the deck extensively and knew all about it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, naturally. But apart from that, it really caught us all off guard.
Yeah, well, here we go. It's going to be the Shaman list. And ignore the cards on the right. They are pretty key cards, just not for this deck. So ignore those ones. But this is a deck you are a little bit more than familiar with, right?
Oh yes, I've been jamming a whole bunch of this deck. Not this exact build. I've seen loads of weird builds of this deck today, man. I thought I'd seen pretty much all of them. You know, the ones with Frog, the ones without Frog, Thing from Below, without Thing from Below. This one here, though, the Snip Snap, I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen that before. It just kind of makes sense in the deck. You're a token-based deck. It's very, very flexible into the late game. But the Cult Master is not something I've seen at all.
I don't mind it, though.
Me neither.
The time I get annoyed with this deck is when I don't have cards to play, which is very unfun. And really, I know you've talked a lot and almost researched a lot about Spirit of the Frog and how that works in the deck. But I've got to say, if you deem a Cult Master a 1 mana more expensive Spirit of the Frog that is an aggressive minion itself, and is more active, because with this deck you should have minions on the board, then I've not seen it do wonders yet, but I don't hate the idea at all. I can completely understand at least the strategy behind it.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the key question with this deck is a lot of players have realized we have to draw cards. In some fashion, this deck really wants to draw cards.
Like Mana Tides and
we're
stuff
seeing
like
Mana
that,
Tides from Muzzy and Hunter Race and all that lot, and then we're seeing, of course, from Alan now, the Cult Master, and I'm excited to see how it works. We've also seen the Evil Totems as well from some players, which I think is a little bit more questionable. I don't know how I feel about that. Or Angler as well, which is essentially a kind of card draw, or at least generation. It's a complicated deck that I feel like we are far from agreed on as a community.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Derek Shaman is the new Derek's Rogue, basically, I feel right now. It's the only class he's played for the past 2 months or so. But he does know it pretty well, to the extent where I feel like that breakdown was him just like pouring a bit of this list into a glass, swilling it round a little bit, talking about its sense.
Good bouquet.
Yeah. And then, you know, next week you turn around and there's just every type of this deck ever. It's like, yeah, take your choice. Pick what you want.
Dude, I'm such a degenerate. I have 4 of the 9 new upgraded hero portraits because I just have like 3,000 rogue wins, 3,000 druid wins, and they're like nothing on all the bad classes.
2 paladin wins.
Pretty much.
Those times you queued it by accident.
Actually, paladin is one of the ones I have because I played so much mid-range shaman back in the mid-range paladin back in the day.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. You are a bit of a degenerate, aren't you? I have literally every single one, and I think my lowest is like 1,400, 1,300.
You played a lot more than me.
Yeah. Doesn't make me good though, does it?
You said it, not me.
I just said what you were thinking on the same wavelength. We are getting into the game now. I think one of the players just needs to step away, maybe for a bathroom break. And if you ever... You don't call those mid-game, right? So
you don't call them.
You want to get them done before the game starts. But at last, we are here. Alan on the top on the Shaman and ETC on the Warrior. Bit of a interesting warrior as well already. Even if you just look at one, it's control, but also it just runs a Spellbreaker. And I feel like a part of me feels like Silence is very underrated now, and criminally so by players. I think Silence is actually good right now.
I do.
And no one plays it, and it blows my mind. Although I guess it might more be a symptom of the decks in the meta don't have space for it, even though it would be good. Because, like, are you running Silence in battle, you know, like Quest Shaman?
Yeah.
Probably not, because your cards just kill the things you want to silence most of the time, and so on. So maybe it's a symptom of that. But already, looking at this matchup, this is one of the more tough ones for the Shaman deck, I feel.
I definitely agree. It got a lot better, in my opinion, with the introduction of Evolve and Desert Hare, because, of course, if you just go for that on turn 4, that's tough for the Warrior to deal with. If they're brawling that away and you're still left with a 4-drop, I think you're pretty happy to just carry on your merry way. So it does still feel very winnable for the Shaman, but like you said, this build of Warrior specifically, with all the taunt it's got thrown in there, N'Zoth the Corruptor at the end, is just an unbeatable scenario for the Shaman.
Yeah, it's very good. Kartok Defender finally found its shining moment in the game right now. Because with N'Zoth, it's so disgusting.
Yeah.
And also, I do like this version because not only is I feel it's just as good defensive, even without the other taunt package that's more natural before the new cards came in. I feel like it has some punch if you need it to as well. If you're playing against a slower deck, well, the Kartok, you know, the stickier minions, as well as Sylvanas, and then the N'Zoth for like an extra level of just beef at the end of the game, can become like kind of aggressive, which is pretty cool.
Alan loading off with the No, the totem, just the hero power instead of the Spirit of the Frog. This is something that I think is actually a very unexplored line of play quite often with the token overload Shaman, which is just pressing the hero power a lot. There's quite a few decks that if they don't get bored and you're able to fit that one in every turn, Soul of the Murloc on a big board can just get you in a very, very good position. You have to be careful against Warrior. It's not purely a reactive deck. They can definitely start dominating onto the board. But I think given that Spirit of the Frog here really wanted a little bit of extra mana to work with before it got really good, made sense to me.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I don't think... This is one of those matchups where you change your play style, right? You don't just splurge everything onto the board and cross your fingers, which is... I'm making it sound over simple, but generally the case in most matchups.
Yes.
Whereas this one, because of Soul of Murloc, then it means that you can wait for those turns where, as an example, just in hand now, Voltaic Burst, Soul, just makes a pretty okay board to then build on top of. And also activates, say, if there was a Vicina in hand, suddenly you're pushing tons of damage out of nowhere, and the board isn't that easily cleaned up. A bonus for Alan as well is a 1 Warpath Omnigon this early, which is pretty sick.
And the coin has come down, so Alan knows he is safe to not be met with coin Dynamatic here, which is a huge difference. Whether he went for the Voltaic Burst or not here. It's far from the best Spirit of the Frog I've ever seen, but this is kind of just how it ends up when you're on the play instead of on the coin. And it's what you want to do against Warrior, really, because just curving out with this deck is nowhere near good enough to beat Warrior.
And I do enjoy, we've talked about this in Grandmaster, especially the last week or so of APAC, of 1 Soul of the Murloc versus 2 versus 0. I'm always 2. I feel like the card is just so good. Even if you just double stack it on the same board, especially if it's a small board like this, it's still just good enough to play. And I feel like the decks that weren't running any suffered greatly from that.
Yeah, when I switched away from the Spirit of the Frog build, I cut it for a while, and then I realized I wanted it quite badly. I wanted at least one of them in the deck.
Until it's gone dark.
Very, very true. Even if that's a Ghostfish person.
You never know. Okay, so mutate on the Spirit of the Frog there is an interesting play.
Yeah, it's usually the way you end the chain with this, just because a 4-drop from a 0-3 is so powerful. Even this is fine. It's fairly sticky.
Not bad.
Yeah.
The hero power yet again. And the awesome dual benefit of Lickham being active on the turn that overloads and the turn that you're overloaded. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
It means that it's like, I feel like managing overload is just key to this deck. And I think everyone's focused on tokens. Yes, that's how the deck wins. But these early turns where you're just managing this overload and getting these extra Lickham swings in that are pretty high impact. And obviously Vicina knocking around as well. It's actually pretty sick. Yeah,
it's really tough because when you actually look at the breakdown of the deck, there's not that much overload. Calling it overload Shaman is kind of a misnomer that some people have been going for. You've only got really 6 spells in the deck that really benefit from the overload effect, or that give you an overload effect. Then you have a lot that benefit from the Lickhams, the Thunderheads, and as you said, the Vicina as well, which against Warrior, you're going to draw through most of your deck before you lose the game most of the time.
Right.
Ooh.
And this is where I would probably struggle. And I think this is where we're going to see Alan either shine or not in this game right now, is how do you use this hand? Is Soul good just to play one? When does the Snip Snap come down? Is this just 6 mana double snip? Is evolving 1/1s into 2-drops good enough versus Warrior?
Right.
I don't really know the answer to these questions.
Yeah, I think Soul of the Murloc you generally want to save for when you have strong payoff, which is Vicina or Bloodlust. Evolve is like anti-payoff with this card because you obviously evolve away the death rattles of the 1/1. So I really actually like this for Alan because, like I was saying, Soul of the Murloc, you don't have the payoff yet. Probably want to save that for a little while longer. Evolve into a bunch of 2-drops. It's not spectacular at all. You're probably netting +3, +4 damage, maybe. And at that point, it just hasn't done enough at all. Whereas this feels like sticky board. Maybe you're representing the Bloodlust from where they're sat.
And honestly, as well, the Snip Snaps kind of have inbuilt Soul of the Murloc as well. They'll summon the same amount of 1/1s, if not more, than playing Soul of the Murloc regardless.
That is a much more succinct way of saying what I was trying to get across.
Yeah. I did not notice this card in the list, though. just a cheeky armor smith. We're back in 2015.
I didn't notice that either.
Just one armor smith in there.
What are the good cards he's cutting? Because
I thought you were just going to say, what are the good cards in this deck? So he's playing armor smith.
double Plague, double Brawl, an armor smith, a Whirlwind. Like, he's still playing double Town Crier and Eternium Rover.
Can we get a card count check on ETC's dates? He's playing 35 card control warrior.
I guess when you cut the 6 cards that come in the... the 5 cards that come in the taunt package all of the time.
He's still running Lysiana as well. Wow.
That's true. It's really greedy. Really, really greedy.
Well, it's really greedy, but also not.
You don't
because
just run
of,
that much in the Nizhov.
Armor Smith and all all the AoE, the plagues. You know what? It's just a deck of 2 halves, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's literally half of its removal, and then there's the Nizhov package and the Lysiana, and arguably boom.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Big old amounts of refill coming in here for Tom, though. Oh, sorry, for Alan here. I'm just confused by players with numbers at the end of their names now. Because if his board is now cleared, he of course has the refill very, very powerfully of Thunderhead plus the Burst and Soul of the Murlocs. That is a really difficult to answer board. But the problem is he doesn't have the payoff yet. Having a bunch of 1/1s in play doesn't do all that much right now.
Would he ever consider...
Oh, would he ever?
Like, Lightning Bolt to just get rid of the Ziliax? Although I guess he can trade. But then, like, evolve into Soul of the Murlocs, like, because I'm not sure if Alan can like wait for just I'm just gonna wait till I draw the perfect evolve board.
Yeah.
What if he just evolves and says, he can like Lightning Bolt, put everything face, evolve, then Soul the Murloc it? Like,
that's definitely, I agree, the kind of thing you're moving towards. It
feels bad, but it's something.
I think from where Alan sat, there's so many good cards he can draw before he goes all in that he should probably wait a little bit. Like, we're looking at Hare, Mogu, Bloodlust, Sea Giant. There's so many good cards. He gets like half his deck at this point that waiting 1 or 2 more turns feels just about worth it to me. Especially as, again, this is not the taunt version of Warrior that we're used to, where it can dominate the board pretty heavily as soon as a Megadillo hits the board. He has to wait until the Nizhov comes down later on. There's only a few taunts before that point in the Khartoum Defenders. Obviously, if Nizhov does come down, then you're pretty much just giving up the game, but that's a risk you have to take.
And I guess both players are being just as, I'll say, unlucky in the fact that Alan, up until this turn, has not drawn any big push turns, big setup turns. Like, ETC hasn't drawn any Khartoum Defenders yet, which a Khartoum Defender, no matter which way you deal with it, it sucks to deal with. It's very awkward, very annoying, and it gets in that Nizhov pool. But now, though, is it just like a maximum trade just to go for this Hare follow-up?
That's what I'm looking at. He's obviously afraid of some kind of removal, given how little ETC has developed over the course of this game. But given that he has, as I said, pretty strong follow-up afterwards, he can probably be pretty happy. But at the same time, does he say, right, this board is good enough for the moment, it's still representing Bloodlust the whole time? Although even that's starting to become less likely.
I do wonder if he should Lightning Bolt this Armor Smith, though.
Yeah, he's going for it now. He's going pretty all in here.
Well, you can still Soul the Murloc as well.
Yeah.
Here we go, then.
Not bad at all.
Just, I was going to say, okay?
Perfectly fine, yeah. If the, what is that called? Ticket Scalper can survive for a turn as well. That is huge.
Oh, that's a board clear, though. He uses a lot of resources.
That's true, yeah.
But that's pretty good. Like,
oh, is that worth it over just Brawl and then Whirlwind?
What about just Warpaths and don't clear the whole board?
I hadn't really considered that.
He can clear all of those on the left with 4 Warpaths, and he clears the Murloc, so it just leaves a
probably better.
A 1/4.
Gains him a
1/3.
Little bit of armor as well. It's not nothing.
It's annoyingly with the Pit Lord on the board, but it is just a Pit Lord. You know, it's just one big minion. Maybe that's okay. It depends how much he he thinks he can take, right? Because right now, both players are kind of trying to walk a tightrope of how much can you remove without getting away for it, and then how much does Alan need to put pressure on to threaten Bloodlust and make it good enough. So I'm going to go for Brawl Whirlwind instead. Oh, I mean... Alright,
if that's your outcome, then go for it.
What a show-off.
I think that is literally the last word I've used to describe ETC is show-off. He's like the most humble, gentle man I've ever met.
I meant the armor smith.
Oh, right.
So I'm digging my way out of that one. Oh, and there's Vecina.
That's pretty big. That is pretty big.
So now, if you're in this spot, which must be pretty common, right? You've made a big push.
Yeah.
It gets cleaned up because Warrior can do that. Is it just now refill time? And it's like Thunderhead, Lightning Bolt, Burst, Soul, next turn Vecina, win the game or don't.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking at. If he was to go for the double Overload card on this turn, I think that board locks him, which is actually kind of annoying because 5 minions is a lot worse than 7 minions of Overload, but unless he goes Thunderhead, Burst, Soul of the Murloc, and then Lightning Bolt afterwards.
Oh wait, well can't he just... yeah, he could just do it either way, right? He could just Burst first. Either way doesn't matter. But use Overload before the Thunderhead.
I guess this way is fine. Just fit in a hero power instead, and then you save the Lightning Bolt for wow, for the Vecina later on, or you can wait completely.
Yeah, this is the trick where you go, I'm just going to make my opponent confused. You can't clear my board if I don't make a board.
Right.
Time is definitely a factor, though. If ETC draws his deck, you have to imagine most of the time his removal at least matches Alan's pressure, as long as he doesn't evolve into, like Tyrion, like ridiculous things.
Was that supposed to just be a Lysiana there? You're on 9 mana. He's developed a 1/2 instead of a 7/7.
Could you get fatigue?
He has good. Maybe,
like
yeah.
15?
Right, yeah. If he just hero power passes every turn, is that like, or just clears with Thunderstorm? Maybe, yeah. It's just interesting though, because maybe you can win the game just by developing
playing stuff
onto the board at that point.
Just press enter and Alan, confuse me more. I'm ready. I'm belted in.
He can't let his totems just be traded away, right? Like he has a chance here because he's able to get more totems on the board.
What do you know,
wait,
Derek?
he's not. Yeah, God. Not even top 100 anymore.
I know, yeah. You hit top 25 once and you think you're awesome. I would too.
I love how I've been flamed by both the casters and the players for that tweet now. Like, imagine tweeting a top 25. Like,
yeah.
I think everyone just underestimates how bad I am and how impressive that is for me to hit that.
What a show-off. You're just like ETC. You two been hanging out?
We said hi.
Oh, so, makes sense then.
Our conversation went, no, I'm better than you.
I thought so. Well, look at my top 24 tweet.
Well, I mean, I could say, look at my top 25, and he says, I'm in Hearthstone Grandmasters. I'm paid to play Hearthstone professionally.
And then you'd be like, so am I. And it just goes on as a loop forever.
Right, we must be getting close to a turn
Playing
for Alan.
A thing.
Like, spell power totem, double zap here. Well, this looks nutty. Because if you don't clear the board, you never ever win. You have to clear the board to have a chance.
And my worry overall is this style of play is quite old from when you ran Hagatha in this type of deck,
That's
right?
true,
You know, when I remember, I think it was a playoff where the casters' minds were blown because fatigue was a thing in the matchup, and it was never really played like that before. And then Hagatha allowed fatigue to like kick in, and the Shaman outvalued some of the slower decks. And I get that that's... I feel like that's what Alan's kind of trying to do, but I also feel like it won't work.
Yeah.
Well,
did you like this?
I think it's about as all as you can get.
Yeah. I just wondered if there was slight optimization, but I guess the O still works out the same anyway. Yeah. It was really just starting a bit late that was the problem, because now there's a lot of cleanup that can come down. Like ETC doesn't really need anything to clear up the relevant parts of this board.
That's a Thunderhead and a Vicina. Committed, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like two of the most powerful minions in the deck.
I wonder if the play was ever just give them a million armor and take out everything else instead. By leaving up the armor. Maybe not.
Yeah. There's a Warpath.
Yeah,
if we decide to look at the silver lining from Alan's side is, well, there's like multiple Warpaths and the Whirlwind gone. There's only so much more stuff left, and especially Plague of Wrath is incredibly difficult to prop now.
That is some Ned Flanders level of positivity that we're working with there.
Well, honestly, though, even just looking at Alan's like camera, basically, is when that came down, he just nodded, noted it down, was like, right, okay, cool. And I think that generally he does have a plan. He expects this removal to come down.
Yeah.
I'd just love to know what that plan was, because it's either genius or he's just making the game last longer, and I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah.
I respect Alan. I think he's got a good plan.
In my experience, it's looking very, very unlikely for him to have a chance. He's really just hoping that an 8-8 can solo the game at this point, really, because there's no removal. But with Sylvanas coming down, N'Zoth can only be so far away. I think there's little to save him.
It's the MVP time.
Maybe that could be it, though. Saving the Voltaic Burst, I would imagine, pretty much specifically for the Cult Master.
Does he ever,
it's huge.
Lightning Bolt trade first? Get rid of the Sylvanas, and then Cult Master Voltaic Burst?
I think you probably just hope they steal up 1-1 instead and draw more cards. Because even if he gets the Cult Master right, it's not that bad.
Sea Giant time. Do you play it? I like it.
I don't.
Okay. Fine. Let's do everything you want to do.
There we go.
Bloodlust.
We finally have a Bloodlust. Good gracious. Do you not want to trade first? Is he not trading the Mogu into this 4-3?
Yeah, well, I mean, does he have to? He can swing Lightning Bolt, right? And keep the Mogu, maybe?
Okay, yeah, fine.
Oh, Cult Master.
Huge.
Already earning his space in the deck by dodging a Sylvanas.
So what Alan needed, just hope that there's that just that little bit blip in the removal where the Sea Giant can come down. Maybe this is it. Hair plus Sea Giant. Could it be enough?
I've seen stranger things happen. Lackeys always make things happen too.
Yeah. It's a big board that can be made on this turn.
Just one weird game of Hearthstone.
It really is.
Is this ever like just Sea Giant?
To play around Brawl to an extent? And because you want to leave a wide board after?
And then, well, to me, I see Sea Giant as another wave. So you go just Sea Giant. And then if it's cleared, you've got the hair plus everything else. You could do it maybe the other way around. It's just that I felt like that turn because Sea Giant could be played solo.
Yeah.
I think it was an option. I definitely wouldn't have hated it too much because if he goes all in now and there is just that last brawl, it's just a game loss.
I think his best chance, though, rather than saying he has 2 waves in case of a brawl, is making one huge effort to win the game.
Wave.
Exactly, the ultimate wave here. And then if the brawl is there, you just give up the game.
Okay.
Because here, if there's no answer, he just wins, right?
Wins,
yeah. Does he not want to play the Giant as well? I think he's all in enough here to the point where Sea Giant should be played.
And if he doesn't play it,
see this
I think he should have just played it.
Yes.
Played it. There we go.
You could see how undecided he was. And honestly, I think even if you count up the damage that's available here, it's 18. It's not lethal. It's just not enough. And I think he has to get there in one fell swoop for him to have a chance. Especially as there was a pretty good chance of a taunt coming down, some kind of removal, even just if it was a little bit.
I think Giant with Lightning Bolt would have got him there as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe not with this Cartot Defender, of course, but I'm just saying, like, from Alan's point of view, you can't go, well, if they play this, this, and this, I'm not going to get there.
And that's just my thinking, is that he is all in at this point. If this doesn't get here, the game is over.
And I think he has to Bloodlust now, right?
I think so.
You can't have a board like this, no Soul of the Murlocs left, and not Bloodlust. I don't even care if their numbers add up.
Yeah.
Even though they obviously do. Could we even ignore the 1-2 because the taunt tone will heal now? You can play the Sea Giant with the trading minions off into Carter. Can evolve a hair after it's gone face.
Yeah, I think like an evolve on the hair is probably, or a mutate is coming down at some point anyway. It's just whether or not you bloodlust first. But he's holding off it again.
Yeah, I would have thought you would bloodlust first because one hair can always go face, which means you benefit. Right? It's a positive.
Do you get short? The giant getting rush off of shore. Insane.
Yeah, let's play. Weak to play around. Dr. Boom there coming down. It's the only option he really has right now.
Is this just lethal now for Alan? He's looking at 18 extra damage. 20, 28.
34, 34, 36. Is that 39?
With the lick him as well?
And the lightning bolt, I think so. I did very roughly count that though.
10,
so
14, 20, 38. I count it as 38.
Oh, was it only 38? Okay. Where did I put extra damage?
I think 39. Maybe I'm counting wrong. Maybe I'm counting. It has been known to happen in the past.
Once or twice.
He's got to go for it now, though. Even if it's not lethal, we can agree it's all he's got. Oh! This is a pretty sick game from Alan. I think I would have played this very differently and lost because of it. He was just so hesitant at all points in the game.
But I still think he might lose.
He might still lose.
That kaboom was insane.
There is the clear available now.
And now, but the giant can be played. The giant can be played. Oh, but there's Dynamatic and Zap. Wait, didn't play the giant?
Was it not available though because he was overloaded?
Oh, he was overloaded. You're right. Sorry, yeah, I didn't see the overload. Apologies. And that's a clear. And then there's a brawl.
Does he win from
This is coming down to card for card, right? But the problem is there's the Zoth. It's like he draws the Zoth, he just wins.
That's just it. Yep.
Oh my. Shaking the head from ETC, and honestly I can't blame him. That must have been one of the weirdest versions of that matchup to play against. Like, Alan just pressed hero power a few times randomly middle of the game and didn't play. He just passed a few turns and it still wasn't, it was enough in the very, very end. But there were draws on both sides where, yes, Alan drew Lightning Bolt for that lethal. If ETC just drew N'Zoth at any time soon, any reasonable time earlier, he would have got at least one Kartuk defender back, which then heals him back up, which then just locks out the game a lot of the time. So that was just a lesson. I feel like that matchup should be studied in terms of just how Alan approached it. I don't even know if it, say we asked 20 pros in the other room down there if that was right. They could tell us, but for me, what I do know is Alan had a plan from turn 1. Because of the turns he was doing, the expectation of the removal was just consistent. It's like, yep, no problem. Whole board cleared, saw the Murloc's gone, yep, it's fine, plan for it. It's crazy.
100%. I mean, I don't even care what those other guys might be saying. That's game of the day for me. That was nuts. I think that was just a masterclass in the matchup, as you said, because the amount of players I've talked to who have said, I just haven't really practiced against Warrior. I didn't really want to do it. I didn't think people would bring it that much. That screams of a player. Exactly. Who wants to play that deck? That's screaming to me of a player who knows exactly what he's doing. And as he runs back into the player area, I imagine from a bathroom break, I'm sure he can hold his head high after a very well-played game of Hearthstone.
Nothing wrong with staying hydrated. But there is some more decks left, of course. And what have these players got left now? And how are you feeling about ETC or Alan taking the series?
So what are we looking at left for Alan? Having taken the win now, he's left with his Priest, which is Combo Priest, very plain and simple, and the Rogue, which is the kind of secret deck that a lot of players weren't expecting, because there was, like, I think in Grandmasters, a 3-week drought of any Rogues across any region, where just no one was bringing it, because it didn't feel like it could beat the Druids, the Warriors, or the Shaman. Whereas now, players are thinking if you're banning away the Shaman, the token overload evolve Shaman, then all of a sudden you're left with Priest, which is fine, I think, for the Rogue, given all the removal they have in there. It feels not bad against the Warrior. Some of the lists that people are playing with Shark in there or questing, and feels very strong against Druids. Yeah,
I think it's looking pretty good overall. I do like the Rogue pick. And again, it's probably the better end of the stick for me in terms of, I would say, like Rogue versus Paladin in terms of the bring of the Highlander Secret Paladin or Rogue.
Yeah.
I think I would have lent towards Rogue myself because it's just, it feels more consistent. I know what it's supposed to do. I know what it generally does. Whereas the Paladin, I feel like there's a lot to be desired. We've seen some players even earlier on today on stream just like pushing everything to face every turn and hoping it's an aggro deck, which is fine if it works, but again, like Rogue to me just does that better. So we'll have to see how it pans out towards the whole weekend of this event when we can see actual, archetype win rates over hundreds of games.
And I'd be very curious to know what Alan's practice group was for this tournament, because he's ended up on a list that's very similar to what the Pheno's House group came up with the Spirit of the Sharks thrown in there. I think mainly because they feel like it's very, very strong in the mirror. The Shark just allows you to do more broken stuff in the mid-game and generally pull into the lead. And also against the aggro decks, just questing adventurers, they found a little bit just too susceptible to them killing it off.
Interesting. I know Salt and I were casting earlier on where questing like just soloed a Paladin almost, which was pretty insane because against Holy Wrath Paladin there was no answer. So it was pretty sick. But yeah, the Rogue list always interests me, and we'll see what these players are queuing. I think that was Alan queuing Rogue and then ETC on Warrior again, which looks like from this great angle the game has started. So if we can get onto that, that'd be pretty sick. But unless it's a test game. Maybe we can watch that as well. There we go. So yeah, it is going to be the Rogue versus Warrior, and this feels as well super old school. Although the lists are obviously different, it's like, how does Warrior deal with Quest and Adventurer, right? Because there's two of them in Alan's list and in his hand.
Weird list here for Alan. He's cut the Hench Clan Burglars, which a lot of players have put in to do very well in the mirror, to actually have a card to activate your Vendettas. But he's also got double Questing Adventurer, double Spirit of the Shark, and a Novice Engineer, and the Waggle Picks all thrown in there as well, which means he has to take cuts to cards like there is no Fan of Knives. There's also no Eviscerate. I was trying to figure out what the missing card was, and it's Evis from a Tempo Rogue. That seems insane.
Yeah, I guess it's a miss this time. No?
As in Evis?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
It's a miss.
Yeah. I was wondering if there was something deeper going on there.
No, there is never anything deeper going on.
That was on me for thinking there was any layers to your jokes.
You've already been casting with Salt too much. Let's bring you back down to my level.
What have we talked about thinking?
We agreed we wouldn't do this anymore.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, let's go into the game already, though. ETC with an Eternium Rover ready for turn one. The Dynamatics there as well, which, although you can argue is a fair few turns away, the turn it comes down is normally very, very good.
Yeah, missing the 1 in 3 to hit a class-specific minion, which in this instance could just be the difference maker, unfortunately for him, because this Underbelly Fence coming down here would be huge to just rush into the Rover.
Look at the curve as well. The choice of Blink Fox or Miscreant, depending on what the card draw is going to be. Also the Vendetta, whether it's active or not in the short term, hopefully for Alan it will be. But even that, it actually kills just most of the early game stuff in terms of the rush minions, obviously. Dynamatic can clean up very nicely, and most importantly, proc combos and not use mana.
For ETC, the cards that he's missing in this Warrior deck, which can make a big difference, I think for the most part, is Weapons Projects. That definitely feels like the big cut, moving over from Taunt Control Warrior to N'Zoth Warrior, where I think we can agree in Grandmasters, it felt like a pretty good bring, if not necessarily for the weapon classes, more so for the Paladins, where you just needed to gain enough armor to outlast what they were doing.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I feel like Paladin was the most hyped with the new cards, but least good with the new cards.
I can agree with that.
I think with Emperor, it's going to be insane. 6 mana 5/5 do nothing is kind of hard to play in that deck. So I think I wouldn't have expected much Holy Wrath Paladin. I believe there isn't tons of it in this tournament. We've seen like a good mixture of all sorts of stuff. Even Tom mixed it up and brought Murloc, which just blew my mind.
Same.
Yeah. Couldn't have done it in GM. But yeah, I think that Holy Wrath Paladin I thought was going to be less represented than maybe other people did. But yeah, I think I think the Weapons Project is a fine cut. I think it's one of the first cuts in the deck.
I agree. It was okay in that spot. Sorry, but if you're not expecting a lot of rogues, then I agree. You want to be getting rid of that pretty quick. Ooh. Big pickups now for Alan. Not necessarily a play on this turn due to its extreme weakness to Dynamatic.
He almost just can't, right? Ooh, surprised at the weapon though. Is Alan going full greed? I just saw Swashbuckler into Miscreant this turn and was like, let's get him.
This honestly feels like watching Purple play at his best, because Purple, I think we can agree, is one of the best players at realizing weird win conditions, the way you're not supposed to play the deck. And Alan here with his aggro, quote-unquote, Shaman, just almost fatiguing the warrior, it felt like, by hero powering turn after turn. He's floated like 6 mana so far this game.
Purple always hits you with the unexpected.
Yeah.
Yesterday, when check-in was going on, we saw Purple and Casey. Purple walks up to me. Hey, Raven. I stick my hand out for a handshake. Hey, how's it going? He goes for the hug. I just didn't expect it.
Never know what to expect.
He got me. And I feel like Alan is looking very impressive so far. Obviously, he's 4-0. He's doing something right.
Yeah.
But last game, he had a plan. And even though he might have cut it close, it worked.
Yeah.
Even though it was maybe not the way many of the players would have approached it. And right now, again, I feel like there is a grand plan for this Shark and for this generation where Alan just has a million cards this game. And similar to how Shaxi played in Season 1, Shaxi played a rogue similar to this. And what really impressed me was not being able to generate a ton of cards, but how do you even use those cards to win a game of Hearthstone? Because when most of them are lackeys, it's weird to play versus a deck like Warrior, which loads of 1/1s.
Right.
So hopefully we see him pull it off.
This is a weird old way to play the rogue. Playing lackeys, playing lackey generators like the Rat before you play Spirit of the Shark. This is not the way I think the vast majority of players here at this tournament would have played it.
And I wonder if he's just thinking, oh, well, Miscreant's kind of weak on board. Do I just Spirit of the Shark Miscreant on 7? That's 4 lackeys.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe? I don't even know anymore. I'm lost.
ETC did have a couple of ways to full clear here. We could have seen Mummy, then Whirlwind to self-damage your Mummy and then double trade here. This, of course, gives you a 3/4 in exchange for the coin. And I think, given that he doesn't have anything he wants to coin into, this is probably just better for ETC.
Yeah, I like it. Just having the minion on board, not only has it done its job in the removal, it's now actually just a threat.
Yeah,
there is Vendetta for Alan, though, so he can clean this up as nice as he wants.
So many options.
Now that he's seen the Dynamatic, there are, I believe, 2 of them in the deck, yes, for ETC. But you've seen one, so it's obviously less likely they have the other. More leniency to just go for the Spirit of the Shark here. So Shark plus Rat on this turn seems fine.
And also as well, because in an extreme version of this world, 1 Whirlwind's been played and there's only 1 in the deck, which means that there isn't even Whirlwind Plague that could punish it. But obviously Alan does something completely different.
Just goes with the Dragon Roar instead.
Hey, Snoo's going to get, Emrys. Get ready for that late game. It's going to make the Shark a threat.
A 0/6, so it survives the Dynamatic. That's his grand plan.
He's really thought ahead.
So is this the plan? Was he setting up for Shark plus the Miscreant on turn 7? Or is it yet further that this plan goes?
I don't even think I can conceive this plan now. With what he showed us last game and what's going on this game, this is Inception to the max. What, 4 layers deep?
I want to start calling him Jean-Claude Grand Plan.
Okay, that was a good one. I'm too happy about that.
I mean, you're a simple man.
I'm stealing that in the future, I'm just telling you now.
Mention Jean-Claude Van Damme, Raven will smile.
So many options.
My hero's growing up.
Explains a lot.
Nope.
Imagine playing a card that started in your deck. What a joke.
Oh, jeez. It's just dragons and stuff. Like, it's just Dragon Rogue.
I mean, at this point,
he's going to sell Shark into Emrys. He's going to kill him with like a 4/4 Cable Rat.
I am a happy man, Raven.
It's all part of the plan. This was just foreseen.
4 mana, 16/16 Bronze Heralds. Whoa. He can even shadow step it once he finds that as well. Or actually, is he playing shadow steps? Yeah, he is.
This miscreant's like, you want to evolve me now, do you? Like, I've got good stats now.
Remember that kid from high school? This is him now.
Still a bit of a wuss, but he can take a hit.
Yeah.
Is this how Alan's winning? He's just baffling his opponents to death.
He's baffling me.
That's what I mean. He's just like, oh, you're not ready for this. Aggro Shaman. Totem pass.
And this
Totem pass. Totem pass. And they're like, this is the right list, right? Have I looked at the wrong list? And then they just melt. Done.
He can't do that. Someone stop him.
We can't. It's a legal move.
The admins are just there looking at the rulebook like, I don't know. And this is the portion of Hearthstone where I choose to believe. Like, you could easily say here that this is a player who, he's making weird plays. I think he's maybe a little bit confused about what's going on. I don't think that's the case here at all. I think Alan knows exactly what he's doing. And it's the type of Hearthstone I love watching most.
I would have been surprised if there was just a Mountain Giant drawn. Then I was like, oh, he's playing Hand Rogue. How did I not know? He's planned for this all along. Obviously, Mountain Giant not in the deck. But at this point in this game, it wouldn't have surprised me. Nothing can shock me anymore. Alan's like, challenge accepted. Now I'm playing the Miscreant. You're like, why? You've got a million other cards. This is a 1/4.
Guess just thinking it's good enough. Constantly just realizing that the warrior struggles to develop. You have all the time in the world here to just be a greedy, greedy boy.
The problem is Alan's very quickly becoming like mythical status of, I want to see him play a Togwaggle on an empty board and then play a Lackey. And I'll be like,
he's just staring at ETC the whole time.
I'll be like, it's a genius.
He can literally concede the game now. We'd be like, next level plays.
He wins.
You see, this is what I was saying to Sottle. One of us says something dumb, the other one says something 10 times dumber. This is our rhythm. And then Raven breaks down crying. That's the final step.
We shouldn't have saved this pair until last.
I knew what they were getting into.
Don't even look at me like that. I can tell you just giving me weird looks.
No, I'm not. I'm giving ETC weird looks. I'm wondering, why would you not just go Warpath and then Town Crier after? Do you want it to be damaged? What? Why? In case he draws the Restless Mummy off the Acolyte. Okay. Fine.
Sure. Oh, you know what? Okay,
yeah.
It does increase his draw, like, quality, right?
Yeah, it just means he's guaranteed 2 draws.
Yeah. And it doesn't change much. It's not.
It's pretty smart, actually.
I doubt it's going to actually affect the outcome of the game.
So on this turn, are we setting up Shark into Emerus on turn 9?
No clue.
I want to see it, my dude.
It would be sick.
Oh, Shadow of Death into the Emerus. It just plays it. It doesn't.
No, but he could do that into one of the. No, it wouldn't shuffle buffs, would it? No, okay, never mind.
No, I don't think so.
Summon. Oh, what about Shark?
That's
Death Shark. It just summons a shark.
There's probably a slightly better option in the Stolen Steel just to get a bit more pressure on board.
Too soon.
I just can't wait to see ETC's reaction to Emerys.
So at this point, even though our brains are melting out of the sides of our ears, do we think that this play should actually have been Shark to set up for Emerys? Because we're joking, double Emerys buff is insane.
It is, and it would never have happened because I think Warpaths or Brawls or whatever would have dealt with it. But my real question right now is what is actually the setup that he's looking for? What is Shark supposed to do? What does Alan want it to do? Because I'm starting to get to the point where I don't really know. But this is going to be a 10-10 Ice Baron. It's going to be a beefier Shark.
It's good, but it's not good enough.
Maybe.
Many options.
He doesn't want the minions to be too big because that's just part of his plan.
Playing around BGH.
Be reborn in the earth.
Look at his face. He was making notes. He heard the battle cry and was like, what?
What on earth?
What? Why do you play Emrys? Such a weird card that it never really was meta at all to play.
Yeah.
But when you think it's an 8/8, yeah, it's 10 mana, so it's not like well statted for its cost, but it's an 8/8. Look, like ETC has to respect it and deal with it somehow.
Yeah.
But you also know that now he has to respect and deal with the rest of the hand as well. So it's kind of just like almost never-ending threats now for the rest of the game, roughly. Because obviously there are like 1/1s in there as well.
Were you watching the DreamHack match last year where someone got an Emrys in Shutterwalk Shaman and ended up with like a 48,000 health Manatite totem? It was one of the most stupid games I've ever seen.
And I loved it. Was it Alan?
Probably just pulling the strings the whole time.
No, yeah.
Dance, my children. All right, we must be looking at some kind of a powerful play now. You can't just keep messing about doing nothing forever, Alan.
Careful. He'll be like, challenge accepted. The game just goes on for 3 hours. You're like, what is how has he not just lost?
Oh, the 2-mana 2/2 cable rat. Huge. That's pretty good.
Oh, favorite minion.
The Gunspire.
Oh, yeah. Now he's just going to get hold of a Warpath somehow. Things are going to...
I've seen that before somewhere as well. Someone actually discovered that and it was actually the best play and I think they missed it. Can't remember where.
I feel like it might have been
I think it might have been, yeah.
So Sap on the card talk, forcing ETC to play it again, but I think most importantly, him just getting those off gone, just in case something happens.
Right.
Because like Elysiana into like something, I don't know, that can bounce them off back.
Alan's not playing Togwaggle's scheme, which was traditionally like, if you were going to make an ultimate late game play setup, Togwaggle's scheme was usually what you worked towards, because you were able to shuffle the Togwaggles back in, draw them back for 0 mana with the wand. He could, of course, just be trying to find it through Discover effects before he goes in with the Togwaggle. But I think slightly more likely it's just he's trying to dump cards. And, of course, get double Discover with the Shock.
Which you can do now.
Yeah.
There's a lucky that's live.
I think that's what we're going to be seeing here. I don't think that we're going to be looking at anything other than wand here. Because just when you have so many cards in deck, like generally the only 2 options that you ever really consider are Zarog's Crown and the wand. But we have seen Goblet been taken before. It's an option, technically.
It's not been unheard of.
I think it was Psycho who did it in GM. I can't exactly remember. And it was terrible. He got bomb. He got bomb off of the
I've seen someone get sprint
goblet
before.
Oh, really?
And it's like, is this good or bad? I can sprint forever. But am I really getting anywhere?
The most scuffed summary of Forrest Gump I've ever heard. Oh, he did pick the goblet.
Oh!
He picked the 2 bad ones.
Alan,
absolute god.
806. It's not a random number. It's the number of people he has slain with these skills.
Next series. And our winner is Alan870806.
Yep.
You never pick the Kobold. But he did. The absolute mad lad.
Oh, and he got a cheaper Gorehowl as well. That card is so close to being playable, by the way.
It's so good.
Discover a card, then -1 mana. Like, that's insane.
There has to be some kind of like a Discover Mage you can do where you just keep reducing crazy cheap
I think
cards.
it's going to be one of those where it needs just the tiniest push. So, like, maybe next expansion.
Alan does have to make sure he doesn't die because he is flirting with stupid amounts of value right now. But of course he has to be able to get there, which I think should be fine. He should be able to not take any more damage for the rest of the game.
I don't know when he's ever going to play this Kobold.
A long time in the future.
Or is he just playing it for like one card? 3-mana draw a card?
Well, what it probably is at this point, he just starts dumping his hand as quickly as he humanly can, and then he goes Goblet, probably gets a bunch of garbage, and then turns them all into legendaries.
It's true.
Because Kobold does turn cards in your hand into legendaries, not your deck.
Yep.
I believe.
Yeah, so it's basically 3 mana, generate a 10-card hand. Close enough with the Kobold, of course, and then like Kobold makes legendaries on mana.
Because I always get confused because there was the Golden Monkey which changed your deck, the Golden Candle which changed both, and then the Golden Kobold which just changed your hand. I believe that's how. Man, I am just absolutely loving watching Alan play. This is a delight. Because I feel like it's not often that I just have no idea what a player is going to do. Like, I don't think I could have predicted a single one of Alan's plays apart from like turn 1.
Nope.
Oh, yeah, sure, okay. Alan could do no wrong in our eyes now.
I mean,
he misses 1 damage. Brilliant.
He was telling ETC he made a mistake by queuing against him. Just throw that in there.
Mistakes were made. It was you.
Yeah. But no, I think one thing that maybe players are a little bit subject to is the echo chamber effect, in that if certain players say you should play a certain way, then you just, oh yeah, that's just the way you play. Whereas, this is why we don't see players do really outlandish things we've never seen before that often. Unless they're just bad, in which that happens pretty often.
Yes.
But what I mean is, like, I honestly feel, and we are joking a little bit, but I just feel like Alan is clearly not a bad Hearthstone player. He's been around for a while, and he's pretty good. So just the way he's going about these matchups just intrigue me to no end, because he's not randomly doing this. Because if he was just randomly playing the game, his plays would be different.
Oh, for sure.
He would have done more than 0 damage. Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem that most players run into when they start playing Rogue is, my hand costs 0 mana and it's empty now.
Yeah.
Like, you just play out all your cards. But here, Alan has too much value, if anything. If you can even have that against Warrior.
He's very ahead on fatigue as well. Of course, there's the Elysiana. But Elysiana always leaves a little gap in that they've just played a 9-mana 7/7 pass.
It's very slow. Ooh, Echo has some pretty sweet synergy with, of course, the questing and just clearing this minion out of play.
Oh, just a 4-mana right?
Huge.
And the problem is, not a particularly great brawl. There's like 3 out of 4 are really bad.
And they didn't even cost much. They're all 3 and 4 mana cards.
I'm so glad.
He's gonna just play Boom. Whoa!
Damn,
That's
is
brave.
a big chunk of damage he's taking. He must be close to just being dead. Gorehowl Kobold? That's a lot. Especially as he could Kobold his own Gunspire as well, potentially, which buffs the attack on the frothing as well.
He can Vendetta as well.
Oh. Now we're talking.
Or is Gunspire... Oh, no, Gunspire's not the only card that's proccing it, right?
No, no.
If he plays Leroy, is this just lethal? Oh, he can... Yeah, he can Leroy and then Kobold, the 1/1, Vendetta, the 1/1.
That does net more damage, yeah.
Oh, no, Kobold's the same.
Okay.
Because it deals 2, gains 1.
Oh, it's actually less.
Yeah, so it deals 2, gain 1.
Yeah.
But the Vendetta's good.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing lethal quite yet, basically.
It's close, though.
It is close.
Upwards of mid-20s damage, right?
Oh my god.
Triple cleave.
Just plays a 2/2, a 6/6, a 2/2, a 4/4, and a 6/6 every turn for the next few turns.
Puts it down to 14.
Damn.
And again, for ETC, 2 games in a row, an absolutely clutch Kaboom into Plague of Wrath.
Huge.
And Alan, yet again, the nods, just not even phased. It's like, well, yeah, he has Plague of Wrath in his deck, and that's a Kaboom.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, could happen. And
My
now,
hand is too full.
Damn it.
the Cleafening. Boo, we didn't play any.
All right, what are we looking at? What's the
Halazi,
juice here?
That's the value.
3 Armagadillos that can all buff each other one after the other.
Ooh. Sure, for rush on demand. What's that top left? Is that
That's Siamat.
Is it Siamat? I
Yeah.
thought so. Halazi for 101 ones. Okay, well, let's
This
get...
is pretty good. This
Let's
is
get
pretty
going.
good, yeah. Though Shaw could also be huge as well to get a bit of extra value. And mainly, it's just 9 big threats.
Well, yeah, that's the issue, right? Because when does ECT play Elysiana? And if he doesn't play Elysiana, he dies to fatigue.
Yeah, he just kind of doesn't right now. He has to lock down board so heavily that I just don't think it's even possible for him to do.
It sounds like a weird scenario in which it's a 3-mana 6/6 that I think everyone forgets about. Like, it is a 6/6 on the board, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
which means, like, even this plus the Armagadillo, this is a set of threats. Like, this is serious.
Big old threats.
And what is ETC supposed to do now? Gain armor and, like, we'll play again tomorrow or something? just wait?
This would be a good time for
Brawl
a
isn't
master
good if there's
player.
just 2 minions on the board. Spellbreaker
Like-
only puts a minion on the board. Like, that's it.
Triple Snip Snap doesn't even clear the board. It's 1 damage off, which is a world of difference when you're facing down an Armagadillo.
I guess.
Sylvanas.
Right, Sylvanas means he can't hero power, which might still be worth it, don't get me wrong, but now he's just
Probably.
like lost in
Yeah,
air
yeah,
quotes 7 armor.
With 2 taunts on the other side of the board, I feel like it's probably just about worth it, but God, it feels bad.
I have no time for games.
So Alan's getting his ETC's getting his armor just fully peeled now this turn.
And the sap as well. Absolutely
Well, that's
nuts.
just like setting up lethal.
That's pretty much just game, yeah.
But there's still brawl. Spellbreaker
Okay,
brawl
okay.
or Snip Snap brawl.
That's true, it's true. No Sylvanas brawl for the true old school
Oh.
play.
Oh, that was the swing.
So many options.
What do you think? Like, would you have a sap, and just see him at?
I would
And then
definitely
because
consider
then
that.
like
Yep.
anything that lives through a brawl is pretty. It's Armagadillo buffs your other Armagadillo still. The 6/6 is still just a 6/6 fine.
So
And then if the
many
Siamat lives, it's
Yeah.
it's a 6/6 with Windfury and Divine Shield.
I
Like,
think
it
he
seems
just wants to
insane.
play his most expensive, least good threat at this
Oh,
point.
honestly, I didn't even see Hooked.
Yeah, yeah. Just because it's still a lot of attack here. If he doesn't clear the board, ETC dies. But if he does, Alan can save the bigger threats for later on. I think it's good. It's literally an 8-mana 6/3, and it's probably the best play. What a crazy world. Of course, getting the double buff on both Armagadillos is huge as well. You probably want to keep them in hand. Although weirdly, if you play one, it would double buff the remaining one, as opposed to single buffing 2.
But I think number of threats beats single high threat, right?
Agreed. And without even the supreme late game win condition anymore of N'Zoth, I don't even know what ETC's working towards.
I mean, ETC's already played N'Zoth, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He doesn't have it.
Is that true?
Yeah, he just played it for 2 Cartoon Defenders earlier on, right?
I thought that was the Shaman game. But I don't think it was,
I don't
was
think
it?
so, yeah.
Oh.
Because I think in the Shaman game, if he'd ever drawn it, he would have won, and he just didn't.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Did I say Shaman as well? Ooh, I need to go take a shower. Whew, Zephyrs will be happy. I'm thinking Divine Shield, and I'm thinking Wind Fury.
Yep.
Attack Siamat. Whew.
Well, that makes no difference.
Yeah, what are we even looking at? Mechanical Whelp can obviously deal 2 and then 7. That's not enough. Kartut plus Spellbreaker is probably the only thing he's looking at.
Yeah. Oh, it's no fun, is it, for ETC here? This is insane. And this is the problem where his hand is too expensive because none of the shapes, in terms of the shapes of the mana costs, like, work, right?
Right, it's all very janky. What about triple Snip Snap? That's no good.
No.
Okay.
The Tiamat
then.
has to be dealt with in one way or another.
Yeah, silence or
I think
killed.
silence card tut has to happen, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm seeing.
But even then, if I'm completely honest, even with just this board, I don't really know how ETC wins. And there's way more than just this board.
Oh, it does not stop coming, yeah.
Fatigue's going to kick in soon. If ETC ever plays an Elysiana, he just dies.
Yep.
And if he doesn't, he just dies.
Yep.
Oh. So now... It's just like double trade, put the...
What does he? Does he ever have lethal? If he goes cleave Halazi and has 3 1/1s, he can rush them all in.
Wait, what? Well, he has Shaw, right?
Oh, Shaw's a good point as well, yeah.
He can Shaw. Oh, it's not quite enough.
If he goes cleave
Yeah.
plus Halazi and then has 3 1/1s to rush in, did he have hand space? How many? He had 8 cards in hand, so he would have had 3, yeah. That would have healed for 6, which gets up to 14. I think that was lethal.
Wait, so again, what was it?
Cleave, which brings it down to 2. Halazi, and then you have 3 mana left over for 3 1/1s, all of which rush in to kill it off. And then, oh, okay, he found the clip.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Wow.
I was going to do it. Alan going up 2 games to 0 in what have been 2 of the weirdest and 2 of the coolest games of Hearthstone. He's already out of here. That I've seen all day today.
Yeah, that's 2 wins and 2 bathroom breaks as far as I'm concerned. So he's going 2 for 2 no matter what. And yeah, again, I feel like it's happening the way we said, which makes it really more silly. But Alan is just this is how the matchup is played.
Right.
I'm going to do it. And then he just does it.
Right.
It's crazy. And I've not seen Rogue played against Warrior, one that much in general recently, but also in that fashion for the longest time. I think it was back in Season 1 with Shaxi, but also bear in mind that was Specialist, in which you could tech
Totally
to be
different.
able to
Yeah.
be an even slower Rogue deck. Whereas this is just Alan's lineup for a massive Swiss tournament. And I'm not saying his lists are particularly wacky or anything, but his approach to the matchups is so unorthodox and so like uncommon. But they're winning. It just scares me. Maybe Alan's just going to win this whole thing. It feels like it right now.
It does. It's been too long since I've seen him play. It was a real delight to see him play thus far. And as we continue on with the series and we head into Game 3 onwards, I've got to say that for ETC, even if his Warrior deck should be favored against the decks that Alan is bringing, definitely doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it's really strange overall. It's a cool series so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing if either Alan goes 3-0 or if ETC is going to fight back. Either way, the games are going to be explosive and probably a little bit quirky as well. But we are just going to go to a quick break while we set up a game number 3. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. We are back here at Masters Tour Bucharest, and we're going to continue to just have and be schooled by Alan numbers. If the last two games have anything to go by, it's been an absolutely incredible couple of games. If you're just tuning in, I highly recommend you stay and watch, and then watch the VOD of this series, because it's absolutely incredible. And honestly, one of the best sets of Hearthstone I've cast in a long time.
I agree.
From a sheer just mind-blowing what is happening, and this kind of scenario where the only person who knows what's going on is Alan, and that's the guy on the left on your screen right now.
He is truly the Aladdin to our Jasmine right now. He's showing us a whole new world here, one we never knew existed. And really, it is just a good reminder that there is still so much room to be explored in Hearthstone, not only in the way that decks are constructed and the decks being brought, but just in the way you play it. I guarantee not a single other player in the entire world would have played the way Alan played there. Not even close. His lines were just off the wall. And I loved seeing them be played. Honestly, ETC, I think he was playing some perfectly reasonable control warrior. Honestly, we've been kind of ignoring his gameplay for the most part, because it's just been trying to keep your important removal pieces for later on, because he knows that a value line is being played. ETC can tell very, very clearly here what Alan is going for, but he just does not have the tools in his deck to answer it.
It's really impressive. Like, not only was there game one with the Shaman and him, playing it very, very, very slowly and still just about getting there. It was close. If there wasn't a Zoth, things could have gone a little bit badly there for Alan. But for me, that road game, again, from turn one, he just said, no, I'm just going to outvalue the warrior.
Yep.
And it's just such a weird way to play, and not only a weird way to play, but the fact he played it just so well, and I felt was just supremely confident that it's like, yeah, this is just how you play and win. It's incredible. And now I feel like I'm slightly disappointed that we're going into game 3 and Alan's playing Combo Priest, because Combo Priest already does wacky things. I'm not sure outside of waiting till turn 10 to play a minion, Alan can really do anything that crazy to win a game. So we'll see what is going to happen here. ETC going on the Warrior once again. Warrior, a fairly okay matchup for the Warrior here in this Priest. By all means, Priest can win, as it can win versus anything. But the Warrior at least has some tools, and one of them being in hand right now in that Restless Mummy.
It's absolutely what you're looking for. You obviously would like to draw it off the Town Crier, but you keep it in the starting hand still, because when all of your opponent's minions have 3 health, it turns out it's pretty good most of the time, and definitely what you're looking for.
Even if they're buffed to 6 health, you can often do it.
Oh, it's a very powerful card. Was that a full keep from Alan there? Okay, no, the silence going. That makes sense to me. It was a bit of a weird mulligan, because obviously you're floating a mana if your plan is to go Cleric, Coin, Blademaster into Nephset. But honestly, I think that's perfectly fine. You want to have a high health minion right at the start of the game, and that is exactly what Blademaster does. Yeah, and if you float a mana to get that kind of power level, potentially card draw as well, then that's a mana you are willing to float. I wonder if, because his plan is to go Coin, Blademaster into Nephset, if he ever goes past here, Coin Blademaster on 2, and then Cleric Nephset on 3, it has the upside of meaning your Cleric can't be answered, obviously because it's in your hand, but it has the downside of potentially drawing you 1 less card, because you won't be able to trade in the Cleric and then go for it. I'm not actually sure what I prefer there. And I feel like Alan wasn't sure either.
At this point in the series, I wouldn't have been surprised at Coin Pyromancer. Just to be like, well, Alan's got another plan. Let's learn how to play Priest today.
Coin heal his opponent's face.
And you were like, whoa, he's setting up for lethal in 16,000 turns.
What a god.
There's Amit, though, which must be nice to just have in hand a little bit early, of course. If you want to draw it at the perfect time, then turn 3 or 4 with or without Coin would be nice. But still, just having it there really just open up plans. And if there's something that Alan can do, it's make plans.
This, of course, also means he doesn't have to go Coin Blademaster necessarily at all. I still think I like that he had gone for the Coin Blademaster.
Yeah, especially with 2. Right, like if you have 2, you can really power this down if there's no good answer. And it now just, hero power shield slam is fine. A little bit frustrating. Arm would have obviously liked to keep this Blademaster, but he's got more where that came from. Then he has Amit, and now he's even got another Cleric. Is this ever Cleric bump heal?
Maybe. You have to know, when your opponent kept a card in their starting hand, it wasn't played on 1 because it wasn't a 1-drop. What is it? It's Mummy. The vast majority of the time, I think it's like the card you're looking for as Warrior. So Alan has to know here that just playing out the Sorry, just playing out the Blade Master here is probably weak enough to the point where he has to expect it to die, especially because there's also been a Town Crier. Even if it wasn't kept in the mulligan, it was probably drawn off the Crier there. So I think an alternate line of play has to be his approach.
In the meantime, ETC has a good handle on this with double Mummy and Ziliax and a Brawl. It means that he's looking pretty good overall. And Alan did actually go for the Nephriset this turn and not the Hero Power. To go for that a little bit extra.
It's just immediate development that I think makes it that little bit more likely that the High Priest Amit will be able to stick on the following turn. And as we can see, it could be the difference maker. The fact that both halves of the Restless Mummy had to be traded off here. The Cleric comes in, and then Amit can just be played. It's not, of course, what Alan has to go for, and maybe he actually just waits a turn and, as I said earlier, makes hay while the sun is shining, because the Cleric is alive. You want to draw cards while that's in play.
Next turn, though, he has
that.
Blade Master Tolve's Circle next turn.
What about just Blade Master Circle this turn? Or Tolve Heal It Circle after you've traded the Cleric, of course. 3 cards drawn? That is huge. I think I prefer that, honestly.
It's hard when there's just Amit and Circle, because even if you imagine, Ziliax or whatever comes down, well, you can circle the Amit and then play stuff the turn after, which is pretty sick.
I don't know, again, maybe that's not the exact line you're supposed to go for. Maybe you omit the heal and go for Powered Shield on one of your minions, as we see here. Okay. Oh, actually, this line I love. I was looking at a lot of different lines that protect you against Restless Mummy.
Because the hell.
Exactly, yeah. And I was looking at if you go Tolvir plus Powered Shield on that and then Circle. But what this does is it means neither minion now ties to the Restless Mummy. Nothing is vulnerable to it at all. And therefore, I think it's pretty brilliant here from Alan. This was the line.
Yeah, this matchup especially, because the warrior removal is so good, it's not about, oh, how do I just hope they don't have it? Or do I just, go all in and just, cross fingers? It's about how do I make the warrior removal that I know they're going to have at least some of it the most awkward possible, right? That's the key, and I feel like Alan is doing a pretty good job of that. Meanwhile, ETC, again, is kind of just at the mercy of Alan here, because now suddenly, again, as you mentioned, his plays just don't look that good.
They don't.
And it's just, I'm honestly trying to find something good to do this turn outside of Brawl and hope the game bugs and both minions die. I don't know, that.
Yeah.
Because nothing lines up in any way. And so does he ever just pass? But if he passes, it's just how it opens up more chance of death, because Alan has also drawn a reasonable sum of cards this game. It's not as if he's on 1 to 2 cards in hand and you're like, oh, well, as long as he doesn't have it.
I think this is the line he's going for here. Just Hero Power Pass, like you said. Honestly, you hope they develop instead of drawing cards. Them drawing cards is the worst thing that can happen here. You don't want them to draw a single card. And then next turn, Town Crier Brawl. If you win, a 1 in 4 chance to just win the game pretty much is, well, actually not even necessarily, but have a really strong shot is huge. Because outside of that, like you said, it's hoping the game bugs is really your best shot.
And honestly, so because of that turn there from ETC, for me, there were 2 considerations. Alan could have just gone Divine Spirit in a Fire on this Blade Master and been like, okay, whack. Left 2 minions on board that was clearly awkward to deal with. But there is Whirlwind Plague to consider. And do you think that's why he's gone for this play and gone, well, this is still pressure, and if you Whirlwind Plague, I've got refill?
I think this is exactly what you do against Warrior. If you don't have lethal, if you have Cleric on board and you don't have lethal, you draw cards. Okay. I just want to keep drawing, because as soon as they run you out of stuff, the game just ends. Whereas if you have all this card draw, can consistently keep presenting threats, and of course find the health buffs to push for lethal, it's just how you win.
Here's the Brawl. There were, what, 2 good outcomes, I would say? That's fine.
I guess it's fine. The other 2 were so bad that...
Yes. I was going to say, like, Blade Master best, do you think? And then Cleric is fine. Everything else was kind of bad. But now, though, is this ever just I guess Amit's hard to get cooking. And he can wait because his next turn he can bronze Sandy.
That's the one.
So maybe it's just a
It's got to be Pyro,
shield.
right? I'm thinking Pyro on this turn. Start really turbo
Or like
drawing
Pyro
with it.
Shield Circle or something.
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe Pyro
Well,
Shield
I'm just
heal.
wondering is how heavy do you draw when you're about to play Blonde Sandy?
That's a good point. That is a good point.
And there's a lot of one drops left in the
yeah.
deck. He's played like what, one?
Oh.
Or two?
Okay, you don't win the game on the spot, but you probably win the game on the spot.
Alrighty then. 28 with only 30 health left. This game got very simple. Removal? Okay, there's a Zilliax, but there's silence.
Yep, Zilliax is the chance
That's
here
just
for
game,
ETC. And yeah, it is just game on the other side.
Jeez.
This was dominant. This was one of the most one-sided series I've seen. Like, not even because ETC played bad. I think he played perfectly fine. I think even like good, you could say, because he just made the right play every turn pretty much. But Alan was just on another level.
And this is what I mean, right? And I was going to agree, right? I feel bad for saying that it was this one-sided because that normally insinuates that someone played bad, someone played good.
Yeah.
But honestly, ETC played well, but Alan, I think, was just playing a different game.
Right.
And I don't get it. I still don't understand. But he does take the series there, and honestly, again, just for me, the highlight series of the day.
Yeah.
Because some of those games, yes, the Priest game happened. We know how Combo Priest plays out. Shake of hands there for the players. But those two other games were just... I just learned how to play Hearthstone. It's crazy.
Even the Priest, I think, was a masterclass of the matchup. It
Yes,
just felt like
it was executed very well.
Yes, I think it was excellently executed. There were a lot of baits that he could have fallen into, like the Amit. I think it was fine. It's on 4. You just play Amit. It's what you do. But I think he knew that against Warrior, with this build that ETC has, you have so much time. You just have all the time in the world. If the biggest threat they can play is just a Kartut defender,
It's edging towards Kato, yeah.
yeah, it's just not a threat at all, really. It's defensive, but it's not offensive in any way. And that was perfectly abused, that effect, by Alan there, which just meant he could go for the greediest lines possible and just came away with one of the most one-sided games we've had.
Yeah, it's really crazy overall and just such an awesome series. I'm glad we got to cast that one.
Me too.
Because that was just hype. I know I've already seen throughout the break just on Twitter people saying about how good the series was and how good Alan played. So
yeah.
I'm excited to see him play. That means he is going to be, 5-0 now in Swiss, which means the second you start getting to these, there we go. The second you start getting to these kinds of scores, they're going to be in contention for like top cut pretty quick, and I'm very happy as we take a look at the current standings of Chonsu there being at the top as well. It's actually pretty hype overall for me.